Is this thing on?
Are you ready, Matt?
You're listening to Box Office Bingers with Matt Diaz and Ernesto Santos.
Good evening, folks. We have a wonderful evening's entertainment lined up for you.
We know each other. He's a friend from work.
Box Office Bingers.
The only way that I know how to do it is to find you a bloody good time.
He's my friend. I don't have friends. I got family. I can do this all day.
If you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything.
Well, hello, and welcome to another episode of Box Office Bingers, episode 259. We are chugging along here with these episodes, and we are chugging along with what I believe, actually, even though we've already entered the month of May, but this, honestly, for me, after this weekend, feels like the start of the summer blockbuster season. And Ernesto, we got a doozy
We got a
for
double.
our listeners this week.
We got a double. We got a double review. I don't even remember the last time we did a double review, but I felt like this Memorial Day weekend that's just passed, that even though we've already kicked off the summer season, I feel like this was like a real kickstart into the summer season. We are reviewing two films this week. We are reviewing the 2025 live action remake of Lilo and Stitch that was directed by Dean Fleischer Camp, who directed Marcel the Cell with Shoes On, and first-time screenwriters Chris Kekani Okalani Bright and Mike Van Wees. But not only are we reviewing this film, oh no, we are also going to be reviewing Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, starring Tom Cruise, Haley Atwell, Simon Pegg, Palm Clementeff, Esairo Morales, and Ving Rhames, written and directed once again by Christopher McQuarrie. He did Rogue Nation, Fallout, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and Jack Reacher. He's also the writer behind Valkyrie, Jack the Giant Slayer, Edge of Tomorrow, and 2017's The Mummy. So we're going to break down both of these films. We're going to see Tom Cruise's supposed final outing for Mission Impossible. And also, did Disney's live action remake hold up? I don't know. I guess we're gonna have to wait and see, but we got a lot more stuff to talk about besides the movies we're reviewing this week.
Yeah, we do have a lot to talk about, but this is a very interesting time over the summer, over the Memorial Day weekend, specifically because of these two movies. And who knew this was like, I guess in comparison, they're trying to recreate the Barbenheimer flair that we had 2 years ago. Wicked and Gladiator 2 try to do it again. And then now I heard some people try to make it a thing on the internet. They called it Stitch Possible, which it never caught on. But I understood the sentiment. You have two big blockbusters going in at the same time. Like, it feels like more and more studios are trying to make these events. And what we'll later talk about in the episode is that technically, monetary wise, it definitely paid off because a lot of people went to the theaters over the weekend. A lot of box office flow was coming in. With a combination of these two movies, among others, it broke Memorial Day weekend records. So I guess mission accomplished if that was the goal, was just breaking a whole bunch of money. And I'm sure the theaters were happy about it too. Because not only was Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible new offerings over the weekend, you also had some decent holdovers that kind of fill the void. Like all of a sudden, Final Destination Bloodlines was a bigger hit than most people thought. So if you're looking for a good horror movie, that was also an offering that just came out, last week. So there was a lot of good variety out there for families, action people, horror fans, comedies. I believe they were also in there. So a great round for the box office this week.
There's that Paul Rudd movie Friendship that's out.
Yes.
I mean, you can go and watch Thunderbolts. You can go and watch Sinners. I mean, those movies alone are well enough to make it out to the theater. So I mean, it was a busy weekend. Actually, funny enough, when I went to go see Mission Impossible, it was Thursday night. So it was opening night for both films. and it was
Mhm.
packed with people wearing Lilo and Stitch stuff. Like I got up to the register and I went to go buy some popcorn, and the girl was playing with the bubble wrap, and I was like, "Oh, you all right? It's busy. It's gonna be busy this weekend, huh?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm so stressed out. I've never seen it so busy. I just want to sit here and pop this bubble wrap." I was like, "Uh, all right, have a good weekend." What do you want me to go say? I'm gonna go enjoy my movie now. I'm so sorry you're stressed out at work.
Way to bring the mood down.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna. I hope you have a good day. I'm gonna go watch my movie
I
that I
sh-
paid for. Thank
I should have taken a picture, but it was. I mean, it's the busiest. It reminds me of like late '90s, early 2000s of going to the movies. Like it was that level
Oh.
of pack. Like it was filled with people, all in blue. There was like literally a guy in an entire Lilo and like a Stitch onesie, like all kind of like the hats, the shirts. Like it was pretty elaborate. It was pretty intense. It reminded me of like opening for Harry Potter when people would like dress up and stuff. It's
Yeah, I
been a
mean,
while
good for
since
them.
I've
I mean,
seen that.
obviously, yeah, the like Stitch is immensely popular,
Yeah.
especially here in Orlando. I mean, you have all the Disney fans here going to the parks and everything, but like I believe I read somewhere that like Stitch, Lilo and Stitch merchandise alone generated Disney $2.4 billion just on merchandise.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, of course they
That's
want to make
nuts.
another movie out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course we believe
Uh,
that. That is wild. I can only imagine what they're going to be releasing just in relation to this movie.
yeah, and honestly, like again, we'll talk about it later, but the marketing surrounding this movie was pretty clever. The merch, at least just for theater merch, I've never seen people like they had a lot of it at my theater, but people like everybody walking out of the theater and at the concession stands were holding a Stitch popcorn bucket.
I don't
Like,
I don't remember AMC having like a really significant one. At least not one that I
oh,
remember.
Regal, they had a really good one. We saw it on display, and it was like a flocked, huge Stitch, and then the popcorn can fit in the back, but it was like a little bit fuzzy, and it looked gorgeous. It wasn't
Mm.
worth $45 for me, but like I can see why people were going and getting it because if you're not using it for popcorn, which I don't think anyone is, it's a good display piece
Oh
and
yeah.
we went Friday night, and it was a lot of people were walking out of the theater with that.
Oh, I totally understand that. I don't know if you remember last year I got the Batman for the 85 year. I got the cup and the popcorn bucket. I've never put popcorn in there. But it's the bat signal and it actually lights
The
up and shoots a bat signal on the wall. It's like, no, that's just the decoration piece. That's not I'm not gonna actually put popcorn in there. Like, get out of here.
it I think all of this is just, it's a kind of cheap statue because
Yeah,
they obviously you can buy statues, but
crazy
they're kind of
expensive.
expensive, typically in the hundreds, but this is kinda like a cheapish, like, big thing you can display and it
Mm,
looks good, like good quality and for half the price that you would if you were going anywhere else. So yeah, the popcorn praise, it makes sense,
yeah,
especially when they keep making them like that.
exactly.
But anyway, we'll talk about Lilo and Stitch a little bit later. We'll talk about Mission Impossible a little bit later. But at first, we're going to be diving into some entertainment news, and we got a few things to talk about this week. First and foremost, the Avengers. Everybody will need a few more months to assemble. Disney has delayed the release of Marvel Studios' upcoming films, Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Doomsday is now set to debut December 18th, 2026, moving about 7 months off its original slated date of May 1st, 2026. To match, the follow up Avengers Secret Wars is moving its release date to December 17th, 2027, after previously being set for May 7th, 2027. With the delays, it now means that Spider-Man Brand New Day will be releasing ahead of the Avengers films rather than in between them with its July 31st, 2026 release date. It's also worth mentioning the new calendar saw the studio remove several unannounced Marvel titles off its calendar. The date of February 13th, 2026 was previously slotted for an untitled Marvel project has been removed from the calendar. Meanwhile, dates of November 6th, 2026 and November 5th, 2027 are both that were both previously set for untitled Marvel features have now been changed simply to untitled Disney features. So kind of not a lot, kind of a big deal, but also a lot to kind of unpack here in the sense that I think to me, when I after finished reading this, the first big thing was Avengers during Christmas time. That's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're moving to that end of the year release, which is kind of interesting. It's a kind of an interesting move. I also think it's interesting that
Yeah.
Doomsday is going to be released the same day as Denis Villeneuve's Doom Part 3. I saw online that they're already trying
No,
to
it's
do.
not.
No,
No, I'm saying like there's no way they're keeping that date.
you
No
think
way.
so? Who you think Dune will move their date?
Yes, absolutely.
I don't know. We'll see because they're already starting the Barbenheimer of that one where it's like Dune's Day.
That's kind of good, actually.
Yeah, it's kind of good. Like it's good. All right, I get it. And it's like Doctor Doom, and it as like Timothy Chalamet's character. He's Lisan Al Galib,
Yeah.
or, or I don't know, however they want to do it, or Doctor Doom is that person.
I have a hard time believing that now that well, first of all, Marvel knew what they were doing. They
Yeah.
wanted to shift over to December for whatever reason. But I don't see Warner Brothers playing ball with that. And the only reason why I say that is because these are the same type of movie attracting the same type of people. It's just like putting a Marvel movie and a DC movie out on the same day. I feel like you're what makes Barbenheimer and even Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible work so well because you're generating to different crowds. But for Avengers and Dune, it's the same nerds going out to seeing the same type of movie. I really don't believe Dune is going to keep it. I think it's going to push itself to a 2027 release, maybe March of 2027. But for now, sure, it's I just don't see that lasting long. But I could be wrong. And if they do decide to keep it, I think it's Dune's loss in my opinion because Avengers going to take over.
Yeah, and I think they probably will just for that point, but it'd be nice to see it go up against it. But we already know what's going to happen. Dune needs its own week. It can maybe even if they go to like the week before, like 2 weeks before, and go for Thanksgiving. What's going to open? Depending on what's going to open, I don't know at the top of my head what's opening for Thanksgiving around that time. To see what it would go up against.
I'm quickly looking to see when Frozen 3. That's 2027. Okay, so never mind. They're still in the clear because that's Thanksgiving 2027 for Frozen 3. But yeah, I think the biggest thing coming out of this was that they're getting a December release, which aside from Spider-Man No Way Home, who also had a December release, that ended up making $1 billion. So I'm not saying that this is a lucrative time spot because it really is, truly is. I mean, Avatar has been making billions off of this time frame for years. So with a huge Avengers, Marvel title like Avengers coming in right when the holiday season is about to approach, not typically the movie you see in the holiday season, but like it would definitely generate a lot of people going into it. Maybe it's a change in business strategy. Maybe they no longer want to kick off the summer, which is typically their MO when it comes to this. I mean, I think it's going to make a lot of money no matter when you decide to put this movie out. But definitely shifting to a December release is quite interesting. And then the other big thing to come out of this is that now the story of Spider-Man Brand New Day is preceding both Avengers films rather than sitting in between Doomsday and Secret Wars. So I wonder how pivotal that story is that it was going to be to Doomsday or Secret Wars.
Sorry, that's the thunder and lightning by the house. Really bad.
Oh, you're good.
Yeah, I wonder if the story for Brand New Day is so good that they felt it would serve better as like a prelude into Avengers so that they can include Tom Holland more. Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, or it has nothing to do with at least
I don't know.
Doomsday.
I don't know. I don't know if it's got nothing to do with Doomsday, or maybe they want to write him in, and that's why it's. I don't know. It's just interesting. But then why, why have it proceeded? Like that's a calculated move. So there has to be a reason why they would do that. They've been going through so many. They've already gone through their missteps, like because Black Widow seemed misplaced. Yeah, the Black Widow. I remember when Black Widow came out. And wasn't it because of COVID? I don't remember the exact reason, but there was a reason why.
Yeah, Black Widow.
Why it
Well,
kept
no. Black Widow was they want it was already always going to come out after Endgame. It just got delayed because of COVID.
That's right. I don't know. It could. We'll see.
Yeah, it's. I'm not sure if it has anything to do with the story itself. I do agree with you that it definitely feels calculated. Sometimes you feel like when these movies shift, there's for reasons. Maybe we're reading too much into it and it has nothing to do with it. But like maybe the story of Brand New Day can stand on its own and then is just relying on the post-credit scene or shifting the post-credit scene to maybe include the events of Doomsday / Secret Wars. But do find it interesting that now it's preceding both films.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is that Marvel took away 3 release dates that were scheduled for Marvel and now is no more. So a lot of people were speculating that we were going to get another film. That we knew about Spider-Man, we knew about the Avengers films, and we thought at least one more unannounced film was going to be announced. A lot of people speculated a Doctor Strange 3 or something else that would contribute to the Doomsday Secret Wars story. And now it appears that they took those away, and now we're just getting, so after Fantastic Four is Spider-Man, which is technically a Sony film, not like Sony in collaboration with Marvel Studios.
Yeah.
So after Fantastic Four in July of 25, the next Marvel movie solely from Marvel Studios is Avengers Doomsday in December of 2026, which is a complete shift in how they've been running things and almost staying true to what they said, that we are dialing back on the amount of movies we're giving you, and hopefully that means they're focusing more on the stories that are coming with it. It also sounds like that that the television shows and the movies are kind of separating itself from one another. You don't really need to watch the TV shows and the movies, where we don't even know what the next live action series from Marvel is going to be outside of Wonder Man. So the next one comes out as Ironheart in June, and then Wonder Man in December, November, December time. And then after that, we have not heard anything about a live action Marvel Studios project other than Daredevil season 2. The rest have been animated. So we're definitely seeing the shift that Marvel promised of scaling back on content, which I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's always better to prioritize quality over quantity. So, like I said, especially after Thunderbolts, it just seems like this is the course correction. Whatever course correction they made, it seems to have worked. At least initially. Like, we didn't really see it with Brave New World, but I think we understood that was still kind of like pre them trying to fix anything, or it was just too far along in the process to kind of salvage to what they wanted it to be. They already, and then from what I remember, Brave New World already went through a whole slew of reshoots.
It did at the time, but the movie was already, a portion of the film was already, I think Brave New World was still too far along after the restructure. So they tried to salvage what they could with the reshoots, but it came to, a lot of people still didn't like it.
But the difference between Brave New World and Thunderbolts is like night and day. It's like there's Thunderbolts was a clear indication. Is almost like the justification that we needed. It's like, okay, we're not crazy. These movies were bad because this is what we're supposed to be getting. That's what it felt like. It felt like everything else, like Like we were crazy to think that those movies were bad. Like, oh no, maybe it's just you guys being too critical. And then Thunderbolts came out. It's like, no, we were right. Look at the difference. But it's so if
uh,
this mean
so
if
yeah,
this is a
do you,
part if this is a part of their
go-
restructure, then fine. Like I'm okay with it being pushed back. That gives them more time to just make sure it's good.
do you feel like, obviously a lot of this is calculated moves, but do you feel like Marvel will benefit coming into a holiday season release with a tentpole film like Avengers and Secret Wars?
Yeah,
Do you think
absolutely.
they can recoup, like, benefit from that Avatar time slot?
Absolutely. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, there's no reason to think why not. I mean, people will go at any time. This is what they don't realize. It don't matter when you release this. It's what's going to look the best for you. Do you want the holiday season? Do you want the
Mhm.
summer season? Maybe not so much the early part of the year. Like usually spring
Yeah.
leading in to anytime after spring. Like it's gonna do well whenever you release it. As long as it just make it good, and people will go. It's easier and you
Yeah.
get more
But
money if you do it around the holidays and you like these long weekends, like Memorial Day weekend.
yeah, I will be curious to see what other films, especially if Dune decide to keep its release date, but what other films are going up against it, because typically around the holiday season you get a nice variety of films to come out,
Hmm.
but typically in years past a lot of studios at least give a week separation or 2 week separation between Marvel movies. So like, is this Marvel being like, "Hey, we're owning the holiday season, back off," or what other films try to compete with it? And primarily the case of, if Dune 3 is gonna hold on to that release date, that would be a massive, opening weekend for, and huge competition for the both of them. I think they will both honestly not benefit from both releasing, but I will be kind of like if they decide to stick their ground, I was like, "Oh, this is interesting." I
Yeah,
mean, I'm 100% gonna go see Avengers first, but,
yeah,
uh I will be interested to see how that looks like. But regardless, all I think this is all interesting moves from Marvel, to kind of shift a few months and give us these holiday Avengers movies. Um, with that, speaking of delays, on the topic of delays, The Legend of Aang, The Last Airbender, the upcoming animated film following Aang and his friends as young adults, taking place several years after the events of the ending of Avatar: The Last Airbender, has been delayed yet again by several months. The film is now expected to hit theaters October 9th, 2026, 10 months from its previous release date of January 2026. This film feels like it's never going to come out.
I know.
Because we've been talking about this animated film for years now, and they just keep delaying it. So hopefully, like, we were expecting a trailer somewhat soon because of the January release date, but again, we have to wait a little bit longer. But I'm still excited to see this movie whenever it does decide to finally release.
Yeah, I'm excited. My thing, if you're gonna keep pushing it back, that's fine. It better be. Just make sure it's good when it comes out.
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
All right, we got some other big news coming out. HBO's Harry
Hmm.
Potter TV series has officially cast its leading roles, with Dominic McLaughlin as Harry Potter, Arabella Stanton as Hermione Granger, and Alastair Stout as Ron Weasley. They join fellow cast members John Lithgow as Dumbledore, Janet McTeer as McGonagall, Papa Essediu as Snape, Nick Frost as Hagrid, Luke Thalen as Quirrell, and Paul Whitehouse as Filch. Um, I'm excited for this. I'm just is another one like just as long as it's good when it comes out because I mean the movies are beloved. There's literally theme parks named after the
Hmm.
movies, so this better be a good follow up to what it's going to be. Hopefully, they do give us that true expansion of the books, like being able to follow the books faithfully as they can, as in this expanded version. That's all I can hope for this.
Yeah, and honestly, there's not much to say about this casting announcement. Obviously, they went with three unknown actors, which I believe was the right call to make.
Yeah,
And the only thing else I have to say is good luck, because I mean, there's, whether they realize it or not, and honestly, it's for the, not only for these kids, but for all the other actors and who sign on for this television series and the creators that are going into this television series is that I feel like there's so much pressure from the fans. They have a huge fan base and they are expecting you to get this right. Or even prove its own existence, where that's where I'm in the camp of, because I don't believe that this needs to be turned into a series. And we've talked about this in nauseum of like the pros of turning this into a series and the cons of it. And so like for me, it's more along the lines of prove me wrong of your own existence, because the movies are still widely popular and I think it still holds on its own. And you don't need to remake something that already exists and it's done so well. But I am gonna be there once it premieres, and hopefully it's something familiar but different. And I hope I hope everyone does a great job. And again, good luck to these kids. They're going to be stuck in these roles for the entirety of their childhood, if it indeed continues for covering all of the books.
Yeah,
So
they just can't fall behind.
this is not an easy job.
Yeah, and my only thing is like I just don't want them to fall into the Stranger Things category where like
Mm.
they have to production has to keep up with them aging. Like they can't, that's not something that can be halted. So you have to catch up to however they're aging. It can't be obviously the other way around. Because then otherwise
Honestly,
they're gonna be too old. Like if they don't keep up, they're gonna be way too old by the end of it.
you make a really, really good point of how, over the course of 10 years? Yeah, over the course of 10 years from 2001 to 2011, we were given 8 Harry Potter movies. There was a point where we were getting 1 a year, and people were expecting that. That was part of, like, their yearly thing. They look forward to the next Harry Potter movie. I think 1 or 2 years. We waited 2 years for it, but you're right. Like, because they kept up with that schedule, it was natural to grow up with them. And so you see them age up into the next year into these roles. With the latest on some of these TV shows, we get 2 to 3 year breaks on each seasons, and shows are not getting any cheaper to make, and I'm sure a Harry Potter series is not gonna be cheap to make. So, going down the Stranger Things route, when we're waiting 2 to 3 years per season, these kids are gonna grow, and so you can't tell me that they're in their 3rd year and these kids are already adults. We're not gonna buy it.
Yeah, and where Stranger Things was able to, this project will not. Like Stranger Things was able to rewrite their ending to fit the kids being older with the time jump
Mm.
that's being written in. Well, there's a 7-book series that's locked in of everything that's happening. So you can't there's not going to be you're not going to have that flexibility to rewrite shit unless you're just going to change the story. So hopefully
Yeah.
this is a non-issue and they've already accounted for this, but we'll see.
You would think that, because I mean HBO has the final say. Like, if HBO didn't already give this a 2-season order, like, are they already anticipating giving this a 7-season order? That would be nuts if they did it. Whether it's bad or not, we got to commit.
Yes,
And then
we're on this
to a
train.
point, do you expect them to be like, hey, the first season was just so bad, we're just going to cancel? Like, I think that'll also annoy a lot of fans too. All this build up to only last 1 season.
Yeah.
Again, there's so much pressure behind this show.
Yeah, I'm curious at what they're locked into initially.
And even talking, yeah, it's crazy. So, just going down the Stranger Things route, because I was curious. The first season aired in 2016 of Stranger Things.
It's crazy. Here we are
It's
9 years
crazy.
later. 9 years later. for
Unbelievable.
a show about kids in middle school, nonetheless. For their 3 years in middle school. That's what we're supposed to be focusing on.
Yeah, season 1 was in 2016, season 2 was in 2017, season 3 was in 2019. Okay, you have over the course of, 3 seasons, 4 years. Makes sense. Big jump, 2019 to 2022.
Mm.
And then now 2022 to 2025. 3-year gaps in between season 3 to 4 and 4 to 5. And we're still waiting on 5. And as of right now, we're expected to maybe get season 5 sometime in the fall. And yeah, it's just like there's a point to your point. There's a point where you're like, I don't care about the show anymore. You're making me wait these 3 years
Yeah.
to see what happens next. I I forgot what we were talking about in the first place.
Yeah, I may have to rewatch the series before I watch Stranger Things because I kind of remember, but like I remember the
That's too
main
much a
story
commitment.
beats.
I have
Yeah,
other things to watch.
yeah. Well,
It's yeah,
but
but either
the beauty of the internet is that there will be a recap video. I'm sure there's one right now. I'm sure if I look right now, there's a recap video ready for season 5. I'm sure it's up there somewhere on the interwebs.
they're so helpful. They
Yeah.
really are. It saves me every time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it does.
Even
But with then that's the other problem is like we shouldn't have to need all this. Like if you're gonna put it out, like maybe have the entire thing, like have your set of what you're gonna do in the beginning. So we're not like we don't have to wait 3 years for the next thing. I don't know. I know that's hard to believe because it involves money and commitments but it's just like don't get us invested in all these stories like. It's just
yeah,
there's just so much
it's also
content.
hard too because there's to your point, it does require money, but like it's also the studio too. Like in some shows, they're not given the season order until sometimes after it's over, so they're
Yeah.
not going to have the money to start production. And then if that's the case, then they have to restart all over again. But I mean, this is like a separation from your standard network television where like you have these breaks and you're basically if you already knew you were getting renewed for another season, you're probably starting writing those episodes as the last episodes are done airing. So you're doing the rest of the spring to write those episodes, the summer to film them, and then the fall to do post production and premiere them as it goes throughout the weeks. And that's the model that we used to live by. And that's why we got stuff that started in the fall, ended in the spring, and restarted back up in the fall again. But now, with the budgets immensely high on most of these shows, they want to make sure that they're getting the right viewer count on their investment so they can give us if they wanted to put more money into another season of this. And then at that point, we just have to wait. And especially for Stranger Things with the visual effects budget, I'm sure it's nuts.
True.
Um, so yeah, there's a lot just going into it. But again, to your point, I feel like they need to know what they're doing. They already have a roadmap with the books and the movies. So if you're gonna commit, I would say me personally, get yourself a 3-season order at least.
Mm.
And then that should allow you to get ahead on like, filming certain scenes. Can you imagine if you were filming stuff for season 3 just because they look like what they are now? Because you know ahead of time that you can do that? Like, that's the way to go in my opinion. But again, like there's a lot of pressure on this Harry Potter series. I want to see them do them well. There's just a lot that has to be considered, and I'm curious to see how it all plays out. And
Yeah.
so I think we're expected to see this first season in 2026, if I'm not mistaken.
We'll see. We'll
We'll
see.
see.
All right. So moving on to some extremely exciting news, casting news. Wrapping up the official cast of The Hunger Games: Sunrise on the Reaping, Kieran Culkin has been cast as a young Caesar Flickerman in the original movies. This was played by Stanley Tucci's character, arguably like one of like the most iconic characters from the from the movies. Like he's just for me, he's like the most memorable. I love Caesar Flickerman, and Kieran Culkin. To me, he can do no wrong. If you haven't seen A Real Pain, we reviewed it earlier this year with Christina Watkins. It is an incredible film, and he was phenomenal. He was the best thing about it. He is like that movie truly showcased how great of a character actor he is, and I think that he will do this role justice. I mean, I was already looking forward because every casting that comes out for this movie, everybody's like on every casting has been on point. So I mean, this is just another one that's just like right on the nose. Like you couldn't have picked anybody better.
And it's crazy too because like we throughout the last few episodes we've been talking about, okay, they announced XYZ characters and everything, but then there's a certain point where it's like, damn, Ralph Fiennes as President Snow, okay. And then this was the last one. I was like, you got Karen Culkin to play Flickerman? Damn. I mean, it's so funny too, because as this news came out, we were texting each other. I was like, this is a great time for casting directors because they're trying to get Oscars now.
Yeah.
They're like, hold up, wait a minute. Like we can our jobs can give us awards now. So and this entire cast that they have on here, it's so far it's a stacked cast. The stacked cast I'd never seen like this before in a Hunger Games film, that there are so many recognizable names attached to this franchise where I feel like they had a few. Don't get me wrong. Like there were still a lot of popular names attached to the Hunger Games franchise, but at least comparing this to like Songbirds and Snakes, it's like, oh yeah, I know those people. Like, oh yeah, yeah. But this one is like, damn, all right, we're pulling out all the stops here. Like I was excited seeing the like each announcement that it came by because I'm like, who do you got next? Like this is great. And also, can we talk about the marketing for a second? Every
Mhm.
couple of days, we get like the pages turn
Beautiful.
into like we're reading like the pages from the book, or like they're showcasing a page from the book, and then they highlight the words go away and it highlights on one character's name, and then the fire reveals who is playing that character. You feel that like, especially when they had like good names to like announce. You're like, damn, you got Karen Culkin, that's crazy. You got Ralph Fiennes, that's crazy. You got McKenna Grace, what? Not Elle Fanning? Damn, like these are all great actors to attach yourself into this to these movies. And then you see this marketing, like every day I get hyped up for it. And now compare that to the Avengers Doomsday model, which is like we got a chair and we're just announcing list after list after list. I feel like I was more excited seeing the list to come out, every couple of days for Hunger Games than I was reading all about the updates throughout the day that came with Avengers Doomsday. I did not sit there for 5.5 hours on a live stream, but like throughout the day, you were just hearing names come on the screen.
That's actually, that's a really, really good point because not only has the casting been on point, but like the way that they're revealing their casting, their social media presence, and releasing these names have been like incredible. Like, what a creative way to give us these castings. Like, I love their little
Mhm.
videos. If you haven't seen it, I would go to the official Hunger Games Instagram and you can see each of them. And it was just as Matt described. You get the book and it's a page of with the character's name. They're talking about it and everything burns away. And then behind it, you get this image here where you get like
Mhm.
the actor and who they're gonna play. I mean, it's been fantastic. And what a fail Marvel's has. Like Marvel could have done. I don't know. I guess it's too many names, but they could have done something better. They definitely could have done something better than what they did.
I mean, they could have stretched it out for days if they wanted to, just like how Hunger Games has. Like, can you imagine imagine if they said every day for the next month, we're going to release one person in our movie. That is every
Mm.
day going into a certain time. Like, say if like every day at 8 a.m., or every day at noon, we're going to release one name that's going to be attached to Avengers Doomsday. They listed 20 something names in that live stream. That's a month's worth of like, "Oh, who's gonna be today?" Like, for the entire month, we're gonna release the name. You're like, "Okay, that's exciting." Like, the one day we're gonna figure out who it is. Like, yeah, that sounds like a fun way to do it if you have so many names about it.
What a
But,
great way
yeah, it's
to
just interesting to see how different marketing come about.
what a great way to have continued boosted engagement because then you release it for the day
Oh, yeah.
and then now that post has an entire conversation of nerds going back and forth on why it's good, why it's bad, what they like about it, people
Mhm.
sharing it, talking about what the next one's going to be, and then every day is just more of that. I think that's another that would have been fantastic, like a great way to just
Yeah.
showcase that, and then you could show like their character and then the name, like you show the comic book character and then fade into like
Mm.
who the actor is going to be.
Yeah. I really do hope that, other movie studios are taking notes on this type of marketing because it made me excited for the movie that I wasn't like excited as you were, someone who's read the books. I was like, "Oh, another Hunger Games movie. I'm gonna go watch it, but I don't need to care about it until next year."
Matt, I
And
urge you to read this damn book. It is
I know.
like I've already read it once. I'm 100% gonna read it before this movie comes out. It is so. It literally has inspired me to reread the original Hunger Games series, which I'm almost done with. I've
Wow.
just finished the first two books, and I'm about to restart book three. But it's just so tragic. I'm so excited for this film. The castings have been on point. The marketing has been on point. It makes me more hopeful for what this project's going to produce. I'm more excited for this one than I was for the last one.
Same. Yeah, and again, I haven't read the books, and I know what I got from the last one, and I have no idea what really to expect except for this casting, and this casting is getting me excited for this
Hmm.
movie, which
Yeah,
I think it's doing its job.
yeah, hundred
Um,
percent.
But now it just comes, we still have to wait another year and a half for this. Because this is now a uh, November release. So now going into 2026, we have Hunger Games in November. Avengers is December. We have Avengers Doomsday. So it's going to be 2026 is already shaping up to be a stacked year for movies.
Mhm.
Where I feel like 2025 has been lacking a little bit. Like 2026, they have huge movies coming out next year, based off franchises that we've been waiting for or haven't seen in a long time. So, yeah, 2026, I'm very excited for, and the Hunger Games is also part of it too. And the last piece of news we're going to talk about this week is Alex Garland, the director and writer behind Ex Monica, Ex
Machina.
Machina, Annihilation, Men, Civil War, and Warfare, is set to write and direct a live action Elden Ring film for A24 and video game company Bandai Namco Entertainment Inc. This will continue Garland's relationship with A24, as 4 out of his last 5 films have been with A24. Released to critical acclaim in February 2022, Elden Ring is an action RPG set in an authentic dark fantasy world, which allows players to head off on adventures within vast environments and dungeons. Over 30 million units have shipped worldwide over the last few years. An Elden Ring spin off, Elden Ring Night Rain, is slated to release worldwide actually this Friday, May 30th. So I have not played the Elden Ring games. I do know it's extremely popular. That much I do know. But as far as a movie standpoint, which is I'm more excited about, Alex Garland, Ryan directing this, and I love Civil War. Ex Monica was great. I think I said that wrong again. Uh,
It's
and
Machina.
yeah, I think this is a very interesting movie for him to do next, given that his last few outings have nothing to do with fantasy.
No,
So this
but
is a huge departure from what we're known from him, and that makes me excited.
he does know action. Like he does know how to shoot. I mean, you've seen what he did in Civil War. I didn't see Warfare. Did you? You ended up seeing Warfare, didn't you?
I did end up seeing Warfare, and it was very intense. It was a movie that we were going to talk about and we're waiting for, but as far as my quick thoughts on it, Warfare was very intense. Not a movie that I would necessarily recommend for people to watch because I was not enjoying this movie as I was watching it. But that
Mm.
was, I feel like, the point.
Mm.
The
Okay.
movie was written only by the recollections of the um, actual people during this particular at war.
Mm.
Like the survivors of this particular event were the only thing that the writers got off. Like there was no other research other than their stories. So the script was based off the stories of those soldiers, and it was really intense. Like it was like in your face. It was very brutal. It was short though. It was like 90 minutes. It was very quick. But like there were a lot of scenes where just in your face, and you're just like, ah, man, like you don't want to watch this, but it was definitely interesting. So not one of my favorites though, but it was definitely one that's like I will watch once, not really one to see again, uh, because it was extremely visceral and
Mm.
kind of filled with realism and all
One and
that.
done.
S One and done, yeah. I don't like so said, like, depending on your mood, if that's your kind of your style, I definitely recommend going watching it. It's a lot of, like, intense warfare action in there, but also brutal at the same time. They're not shy away of showing when someone loses a foot.
Mm.
So, like, for example. So, like, there's stuff like that. Like, again, going into the realism of it. But seeing how he directs and writes his movies, especially with Civil War and Ex Monica, right? Is
Machina.
that right? There you go.
Machina. Yeah.
Like he's a great storyteller. So I think he can do this franchise justice, even though I don't know much about it. Uh, but I just think it's interesting that him going into the fantasy realm, it's a realm based on his filmography, has not really dived into yet.
Yeah, but I was looking either. I know we talked about it before the show, but he's actually written video games before. He's done a bunch of the. He's written a bunch of the storylines for the Devil May Cry video game series. So that really makes me hopeful for what he can bring to this. And I also have never played Elden Ring, but it's a game that I've actually been interested in playing. But to me, it seems like it fits. It feels like he's gonna do
Mm.
like he's set to probably do this justice. So I'm looking forward to this. I'm definitely gonna watch this when it comes.
Yeah, I feel like this is also a great partnership too. Obviously, we talked. I just mentioned it. Alex Garland working with A24 on most of his films, so keeping that relationship going. The fact that you just said that he's written for video games, you have a writer director who has done interesting movies, as well as the knowledge of writing for video games. So he can definitely have that mindset of now how do I make this video game things that I've also written for and turning into a movie. So I think he'll have the fans' perspective in mind for the people who have played the video games. And this is also in line of A24 wanting to grab more IPs. I think we had talked about this maybe a year ago, but A24 was interested in grabbing more IPs um, that were, yeah, more IPs, less about independent filmmaking, but still keeping the independent feel to it. So,
Yeah,
this is just A24 staying true to this is A24's effort to expand their brand.
yeah, yeah. I think it is prone to do well. I mean, A24 has put out a lot of bangers lately. I mean,
Mhm.
they've been on a real hot streak since Everything Everywhere All at Once, which as before, like his movie Men. I think you saw it, but like it was one of like
I didn't
some.
see it.
Okay, I thought like where like everybody looks like the same guy, and it's like I don't know. It looked strange. Like they used to be known for like putting out like really strange avant-garde films, and the ones that like maybe you would watch, like maybe I'd be kind of interested, and then you're like, okay, it just never happens. Like you just don't ever watch it because it just seems like too far out there. But ever since that one, I feel like they've been on a real good kick. They've been like so many good movies after that.
And I'm sure that after the success of Everything Everywhere All at Once, they're probably like, all right, maybe we have some money now to like maybe take another chance on some IPs like they wanted to do. And this is not like an in your face like an obvious one to get. So I think under A24 we can see something really interesting as well as, Alex Garland at the helm there.
Mm.
Um, but there you go. That is all the entertainment news we have for you guys this week. As always, you can follow all the entertainment news on our Facebook, Instagram, and our Facebook page at Box Office Bingers, and our Threads and Instagram page at Box Office _ Bingers. We will post all the entertainment over. I am not speaking right now. I'm going to start over. For all the entertainment news, you can follow. Nope, that's not what I'm saying either. Facebook, Instagram, Threads. We'll post all the entertainment news over there first, and then we'll come back on the show and we'll talk about it. And hopefully, it's less bumpy than me trying to say that. So now we're going to be diving into part one of our spoiler reviews, which is our spoiler reviews of the live action Lilo and Stitch film. Which, to be honest, before as we were setting up a few weeks ago, like what movies we wanted to cover, Lilo and Stitch was one that was on our radar, and we did want to talk about it, but not one that we wanted to review immediately, like see it opening weekend, and like something that we said that we'll get to eventually, and if we happen to both watch it, we'll probably cover it in our What You're Watching. But this movie got a lot of eyes on it, a lot of attention, and felt like something to me to kind of hurry up and watch and have our 2 cents on it because it was bigger than we anticipated. But Ernesto, your thoughts on Lilo and Stitch?
Um, I don't even know if I'm allowed to say I like this movie. Like, I mean, the discourse behind this film is crazy. We're gonna get into that in a little bit, but just off initial viewing, I actually thought I had an enjoyable experience. To me, Lilo and Stitch felt like the remake that was felt necessary to happen. Like it seems like it fit. Like putting the CGI monster in this live action world, which is basically with a couple of animated characters, but for the most part it would work really well as a live action. So I was really excited for that. And Lilo and Stitch the animated film is beloved. It's like it's one of my favorite Disney movies. And I felt like this movie had a lot of heart. I felt like they were in this room where it was pretty grounded in its storytelling. Um, I like the removal of Gantu, which is like the big shark in the animated film, but they reworked his antagonism and put it into what's the name of the guy who invented
Jamba.
Jamba. Whereas he's the one he wants his creation to do what he wants. So for me, like it was a very easy transfer. Like to me, it worked out to have him be the antagonist for this film. It just it flowed really well. Like this evil creator wants his creation to do what he wants, and not like learn about love and family and all and his togetherness and um. Well, I don't remember because I know you said you saw the animated one. There was a couple things I was curious about. So in the animated one, do they talk about how water makes him dense? And how he has to look for a big city and that he's trapped by water. Is that something they bring up in the animated film?
Yes.
Okay, but is there a scene where he's gets trapped underwater like he does in this one? No, right?
Yes, but no. There's not really a contention. Not as big as it was in the live action film where, like, they made a huge point that he couldn't swim.
Yeah.
But in the animated film, there was a scene where Jumba tries to get him as they were surfing, and then he was using Lilo as, kinda like a raft, like he's trying to use her to pull himself up because he couldn't swim.
Mm.
And then at that point, Nani was able to, like, rescue Lilo from pushes Stitch away, gets Lilo out of the water and kind of saves her. Then Stitch couldn't swim, and he was also fighting with Jumba underneath the water. And then eventually he was able to free himself from Jumba, and then eventually David kind of dived in and saved Stitch from underwater, and then they both kind of went on shore, and then they yelled a little bit on the sand, like, "What are you doing? You almost killed her!" Blah blah blah.
But
But not to the extent of using that as a plot device and making it seem like Stitch wasn't going to make it, like it was in the live action movie.
see, but I actually enjoyed that scene. It gave stakes to save Stitch's life. It gave her we got to see her pick Stitch as family in that moment because she saved her, but then there's this moment where she felt like, where if she needed should she go back or shouldn't she after she saved her sister. And then there's this moment where she goes down and she tries to save him and she has to make a decision whether to leave him or she makes the decision to just run along the ocean floor till eventually she could breathe again or get to a place where she can be above water. So I actually enjoyed that because I felt like it added some more stakes towards the end of the film once we got rid of the other guy after he flew out the back of the plane. But overall, besides the ending, because we'll talk. I feel like we should talk about just the ending separately. We'll talk about it as its own separate thing. I thought it was fine. I thought it worked. I thought it really really worked well.
Yeah, it's interesting perspective of watching this movie because I really had no intention of rewatching the animated film. Typically, I do. I just didn't have the time to. And so I watched the live action movie. I had my own feelings about it, but then as the news and the reactions were coming out of, like, this film, and I was like, "Wait, did I miss something? Did I miss, like, these big swings that this film was taking?" So then it made me wanna go back and rewatch the animated film. And to a degree, I don't necessarily agree with the point of, uh, I don't necessarily agree with I'm like 50-50 on the complaints as well as my thoughts on the movie. So,
Mm,
Gantu not being part of the movie, upon rewatching the animated film, he wasn't in there a lot.
mm,
So, the fact that the director was like, it didn't serve much to the story, like, Gantu needed to get out so they can focus more on the relationship between the sisters. I 100% understand that because Gantu as a character did not was only in there for maybe 10 minutes of the movie. Now the movie is only an hour and 20 minutes, so it's, like, really short, the animated film.
mm.
So Gantu was in the beginning, when he was, trying to prevent Stitch from escaping. And then eventually when Jamba and Pleakley could not fulfill their job to capture Stitch, it's when what's her name? The Grand Councilwoman, when she decided he's like, "Okay, your guys are not doing the job. Gantu, you go get him." Then that's when Gantu came involved and was probably in, toward the third act and was about there for another 10 minutes or so. So he wasn't in the movie for long. So for the director to be like, "Hey, I'm going to take him out and kind of have that fill the shoes of Jamba instead of being the antagonist, a character that has been predominantly in the entire film, that part I understand."
Yeah. It also
The
probably
part
made the
the part
movie considerably a little bit cheaper because now that's one character that they don't have to CGI in for his scenes because he's not one that converted that hid his disguise as a human. So every scene would have to be this big ass shark walking around. Right? Isn't that him?
yeah,
The big shark? Yeah.
I think he's a shark. I honestly don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, yeah, eliminating a character, especially a big CGI character, definitely reduces the budget of this movie, and we'll get to this in a second as well because the budget was only $100 million. So we'll talk about some of the box office numbers and how like the differences on that in a second. But yes, I'm sure that dropped down the cost. I'm sure it also dropped down the cost that instead of in the animated film, they went with a like their disguises. They're trying to disguise themselves as humans. In the well, I'm sorry. In the animated film, Jamba and Peakley were just wearing disguises to kind of blend in, but they were still always alien. Whereas opposed to in the live action version, they actually transform themselves into humans, which at that point definitely diminishes the 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 CG budget and probably honestly allowed Stitch to look as good as he did. Because you were able to find creative ways to kind of get around that we didn't have a CG character kind of walking around the entire time except for Stitch. Instead, we're using Zach Galifianakis and Billy Magsunin to kind of fill those human roles as they're in disguise. I think that's smart. That was a smart thing to do.
Yeah, it worked.
I think overall, one of the things that I was uh, kind of I did not like was the fact that Jumba was the antagonist of the film. One, they dropped his accent, which really annoyed me. I don't know why it really annoyed me that, but when I heard his voice in the live action film, I was like, "That's not Jumbo at all." Like I haven't seen the movie in years, and I know that's not him. So it definitely it
Wasn't
took
he
me
like
off guard, and then
wasn't he like German or something in the other in the
he was like Russian.
Okay.
So that took me off guard a little bit. So they definitely went with a more American accent. And then just the way that he was portrayed throughout the whole movie, it made sense for the character. It made
Mhm.
sense for the movie. But as comparing it to something, I was not about it. Like I never saw this character. Like they definitely changed the entirety of this character. In the animated film, Jumba was more of a he was definitely considered himself as an evil genius, but he was less of like I want to this like use my scientific gifts for evil for the most part. Instead, he went along and was like, I was more of a curious scientist of my own creation.
Mm,
So when he was trying to capture him in the midst of all that, he was noticing things that he was not seeing what he originally built Stitch to be.
mm,
So throughout the animated movie, you see him being like, oh, this he's deciding not to destroy this, or he's looks like he's getting empathy. Like I didn't, create him to have empathy. He should be destroying things.
mm,
But they made a really good point in the animated film that I don't think they ever mentioned in the movie was in the live action version was that Jumba said when studying Stitch, he was like when he has no sense of purpose because of one of the plots was he was trying to escape the island and he's like he's looking for a city to destroy. But when there is no city, and he said that he can't even sleep because or even relax because he has no memories of anything else other than what he knows. like when you lost your sense of purpose that you were created for, what do you do? And he felt loneliness. And then he was able to find the family that he didn't think he wanted or needed through that and was able to care for these people. And that's kind of the basis of what we discovered through him observing Stitch. But in this case, he just wanted to capture him in the live action version. He just wanted to capture him and create more. It's like, okay, I see he's truly an evil genius. And I feel like for me that kind of rubbed me the wrong way.
Now, did you feel like that before or after you resaw the animated one? Like, did you, when you walked out of the live action, did you feel that way, or did you watch the animated and that kind of reminded you about that character?
I felt
You
I
get what I
already did
mean?
not like the character of Jumbo when
Okay.
I walked out of the movie.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So like I knew that it was already different.
Mm.
And I didn't realize how different it was until I rewatched the animated movie. And then I was like, okay. So there's like from what I remember originally, and then now what I know after rewatching it is like, yeah, you made some differences to the character. And I can't be too mad at it because it definitely flowed better for the movie. Like
Yeah.
the movie that we got, the version that we got, the live action version, it made sense for Jumba to be eventually the antagonist because he also didn't really show any levity in the movie.
No.
Like Pleakley was the one that gave us all the humor.
Mhm.
And then like Jumbo was more of the straight man and a singular focus of wanting to catch Stitch. Um, and it also showed no humanity whatsoever. It just caused huge destruction. So like I didn't like that character because he was, I guess in this case, always meant to be the bad guy. So at this point, it's just a matter of opinion and the version that I'm going with because I have something to compare to.
Mm.
But if I had nothing to compare to, then yeah, it would make sense that he's our villain. So like that's kind of where we're at on that. And there's not really wrong or otherwise. I didn't think it was that big of a deal, but not including Gantu made sense. But as a personal preference, I did not care for that Jumbo was our villain when I thought he was a better character in the animated film.
So I guess my question to you would be, how do we have that same character without making him Gantu, the I'm sorry, excuse me, Dr. Jumbo? Like how do you have that antagonist without making it be him to stay true to that character in the animated version?
Yeah, it's a tough question because again, as it's stated in the film that we got, Jumba makes the most sense to be eventually the antagonist of wanting to capture him, and I guess in that case do further experiments. But I guess in this case, he was always a bad guy. He was kind of teased in the beginning that he was just an evil genius, an evil scientist, and he's just doing this selfishly to gain more knowledge on the experiment and then increasing on it to make 627 as we were teased in the live action version of making more of these experiments. But so for me, I guess there's no real answer on like what would be his replacement because in the animated film, that is your replacement. You have Gantu, who wasn't really our bad guy. He was just tasked by the Grand Councilwoman to retrieve him. That was the whole point. And so I've always felt there was never really any bad guy in the animated film. It was just everyone kind of just doing their jobs, and then eventually we kind of formed this dysfunctional family at the end of the day. So you could have reached that same conclusion here. You could have had him capture, you know, you could have had Jamba capture him, take him into this ship, and then eventually show empathy for Stitch and the humans, and then bring him back. And that could have been your wholesome moment without really having a villain attached to it. But as the movie plays out, if we need to have a villain, again, it made sense for him to do it. It just kind of rubbed me the wrong way, knowing of a different version of how it kind of played out in the animated film.
Well, yeah, because they kind of, in a sense, they literally changed the essence of that character. Like they changed in doing that, you
Yeah.
kind of change who he is. So that's a fair criticism. I will allow it.
Like I'm not I'm not mad at it. You know what I mean? It's like it's not like I'm gonna go on the internet and just like rage hate on this movie like some other people are doing. It's like I see where you coming from. I see how we got here. You made choices in this version of it. It's not necessarily wrong because it made sense for the movie. It's just I know a different version of this movie and I like that better. And that's kind of where I'm at on that.
And I think that that's fine because both movies they're different. I do feel like now hearing that the first one
Mhm.
was the animated was an hour and 20. I do feel like this movie could have been they could have shaved off a little bit just to make it a little bit shorter. I mean,
Yeah.
there's not much you can shave off, but there's a few. I felt like there was a few dips within the film that like just pacing wise, it was just a little slow.
Right. Yeah. Um I do just staying on topic of Jumbo completely before we move on to something else. I do want to show like the image of the two of them between their live action counterparts and the animated versions. And I'm sorry, even looking at Jumba, he, I don't like him.
What do you mean?
The way
That's
that he
pretty
looks,
close. I mean, they made
I
him green as opposed to I guess he's more blue. He seems more blue in the animated series, but I don't know. It didn't bother
I don't.
me.
There's something about him that just is off-putting to me. I don't know why. I think Pleakley's fine. I think did a great job with him. Also, Billy Magnuson
Yeah.
played him fantastically. I
Yeah, I
thought
thought
he
it
did a
was great.
fantastic job playing Pleakley. Zach Galifianakis was he played an evil Jumba. So going in tune of not liking this version of the character, I also didn't like his performance. Also, he had like these. It felt like false teeth uh in him, and he had like this way about him. It just I don't know. Everything about that character just rubbed me the wrong way. The design of it looking live action version, the way that his character took a turn. I guess for people who watch the animated movie, this would be a twist that he's actually the main villain in here and yada yada. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting because a lot of people are also part of the marketing. We did not see what these characters looked like up until like 2 weeks before the movie came out. Like nobody no leaks, no trailers, no first looks on what these live action characters version of them look like. And I remember when like there was a small teaser and they showed like Bleakley for a little bit for like half a second. People were already like, "Whoa, that looks crazy!" Like it didn't look good in their opinion. But seeing it in its full form movie, Bleakley looks fine. Stitch looks gorgeous. Even Grand Councilwoman, she looked great. All the other alien creatures looked fine, except for him. He just rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know why.
I just think you don't like him. I just think you just hated
That's
his
just
character so much. So
yeah. I think
it doesn't matter. It could have been it could have been Kieran Culkin playing him, and you probably would have hated him.
yeah. If there was one big knock, was how they shifted his character. I think that's to me my biggest issue with the movie was, and it wasn't even the main issues that people seem to be going online about. Like a
Mm.
lot of people are on more of an uproar that Gantu was in the movie, and I was like, well, I mean, if you look at the animated version, he's only in 10 minutes. It's like you're not missing much.
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Maybe they just wanted to see, I don't know, Terry Crews play him. I don't know.
Well, number one, that would have been a good
Uh,
casting anyway. But I think it's just people who are
True.
already nitpicking because they're already upset about one thing. They're like, all this is wrong. What else little things are wrong about this movie? And it's like that's just one other little big thing to pick out.
Yeah, fair. Also, speaking of as our double feature, Ving Rhames is the voice of.
Ving Rhames.
Oh, my bad. That I would. Yeah, I was gonna get to him in a second, but he was the voice of Cobra Bubbles, uh, in the animated version of Lilo and Stitch, and now we're talking about him in a second for Mission Impossible. I just saw his name pop up as I was looking for another actor. Kevin Michael Richardson. He played Captain Gantu. I was trying to figure out who played him. What other things have you been in? I think he's just a popular voice actor. Yeah, he hasn't been in much of a
Kelvin
lot of
Michael
live action
Richardson?
stuff. But yeah, a popular voice actor.
Is that who you said? Kelvin or Kevin?
Kevin Michael Richardson. Kevin.
Oh, okay.
Kevin Michael Richardson was the voice of Gontu. But anyway, outside of that, like I thought the movie was good. I think it was different enough from the animated movie to I still think it questions its own existence because they made changes that I necessarily 100% agree with, but I think it was still fun enough that I was along for the ride. Like, watching Stitch just be goofy is never gets old in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I thought all the Stitch stuff worked great. Whenever like the whole montage of them causing chaos around the city with the souped up car, and
Mhm.
then having him be nice and like return the car all fucked up and like stuff. I thought it worked really well. I thought a lot of things. I thought more of this movie worked than what didn't work. If that makes sense. Like it was more of an. I enjoyed it more, and I'm not one. I don't really like the live action remakes. Like I haven't even seen the Lion King ones. Like there's just a lot of them I haven't seen. Like I just haven't. I have no interest. But this is the one that I had interest in seeing, and I'm glad that I saw it because I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's definitely an enjoyable movie. I don't know if I would necessarily go back and watch it again. It's like if I
No.
were to yeah, I mean, if there's like version like, "Hey, you wanna watch Lilo and Stitch?" It's like, "Yeah, but the animated one. I don't really care to watch this again." Uh, but, like, I think for when I watched it, like, I never hated the movie when I was watching it. I was like, "Oh, I think a lot of this stuff works. Stitch is always fun to watch." And I do think that some of the stories were more, um, updated and grounded that
Hmm.
the animated film never had, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And I think one of those was the contention. I think what really worked well was the sisterly connection between Lilo and Nani. I think they were more focusing on that in the live action movie than they did in the animated film. And it was there in the animated film. But I think with the extra minutes added to their runtime, they focused a lot more on their relationship and gave us a little backstory more on Nina's situation, Lilo's situation, and then even some of the parents and the dynamics that that they were having in the midst of all this. So, like, I think that worked well for it because we really got to understand Nani trying her best to make it work and getting the stresses of being an adult after your parents died and having to be there for Lilo. I think that was more again, I think that was pulling in on your heartstrings more and focus more on this version than the animated film ever did.
Yeah. I agree. How are you feeling on the ending?
The so I guess the big contention is that at the end of the movie, the social worker there was a social worker in the movie that was not in the animated film. The captain is it Cobra? Yeah, Cobra Bubbles in the animated film was acting as a social worker. And then at the very end of the movie you realize that he's not actually a social worker. He was working for the CIA, a former CIA agent. And so in the live action version we realized that earlier on in the movie that he was a current CIA agent and went undercover as a social worker, working alongside an actual social worker that was going to Nani and Lilo's house to adjust and kind of verify how all of this is going down. So pretty much in the events of the actual social worker, the events kind of played very similarly to how it did in the animated film. They approach Nani, you have a couple days to figure it out. She lost her job. You need to get a new job. Like all that stuff as the animated version played on the live action version. The only difference was that we had an actual social worker and then Cobra Bubbles disguising himself as a social worker, which was in tune with the animated film. So at the end of the day, when it came down to what are we going to actually do with real stakes here on how do we handle this relationship and how do we handle like Nani being able to take care of Lilo and also Nani wanting to live her own life in the sense of going to college and doing all that. Like the the animated movie never really addressed any of that. It was just like, they're really focusing more on Ohanami's family. Family means no one gets left behind or forgotten. And in the midst of all that, at the end of the animated film, they were able to form this family with not only with Stitch but also with the other alien friends and seemingly David as well. They kind of form their own unique family, not any relationship ties, but this is the people that hold close to me. And so with the live action version, we get more of a realistic version of how uh Nani has to make the adult decision, or sometimes it felt like the decision was made for her and she agreed upon it. That her neighbor that we see, what's her character's name? Her neighbor, played by Amy Hill Tutu, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Hmm.
Um, she she was the one that was she's new to the live action movie. They introduced her character basically like this friendly neighbor and one that's been there watching these kids grow up in this house. And at the end of the movie, Lilo ends up living with the neighbor as well as David, which I believe is probably her grandson. And then that allows Nani to go off to college, which they mentioned earlier in the movie, and they're able to still kind of live with that new reality. Someone that can actually take care of Lilo better, I guess, than Nani could. That again, it wasn't really explored in the animated film. So that's what happened. In the short of it, I didn't have a problem with it because I thought it was in tune with the live action movie. And it made sense because again, it gave us that groundedness that the animated film didn't have. And it made sense for the story. We have these people struggling, and here's a solution. The movie could have easily ended with Nani and Lilo, we went through this trouble together and we're just gonna make it work. But this gave us a more realistic solution to the problem that was presented in the movie.
Yeah, because otherwise you end with, okay, well, yeah, she's gonna stay together and take care of her, but how? Because she has no money, no job, and no prospect. I I'm fine with the ending. I'm actually fine with the ending. I understand where people's issues with, because it is a rewrite of the original one, but only to the extent where we don't explore Nani's backstory in the animated film, or really
Right.
like we harp on her struggles, but not to the extent that the live action film does, where it was to the point where like, well, they're gonna have to like answer this because we spent a lot of time with her being broke and lost. Like we want to see a resolution to that. And I felt like, yeah, like maybe it, you know, they're upset because they left her with Tutu, but I think that's why we get that mid-credit scene with the alien teleporter for her to come see her at any whim. And literally the last shot is her in bed hugging her, like still with her. She hasn't left her, she hasn't let her go. She has immediate access to her. So who's to say after she finishes school, she doesn't get her back and provide her a good life? I think that would have been a better post-credit scene. Is a flash forward of 3 years of her graduating and of her like officially adopting Lilo as her daughter and taking her back on. I think that would have been a
Mhm.
more impactful scene of her getting her back, because then you have this element of her making this sacrifice to leave her with her neighbor who she considered her family. At least that was my
Yeah.
interpretation in the film. But then having her get her back, because then it's like that moment coming full circle. It's like seeing the other on the other end of her sacrifice. Like we can see her sacrifice, but then give us that little bit with like giving her that redemption that she has this career to serve her and to help her provide, give Lilo the life that she feels that she deserves, even though they lost their parents. Right? That's kind of where
But
I think that's what they tried to give us with the end credit scene that they have, but maybe like, and maybe to a certain extent to the people online, it wasn't enough. I mean, the division online is pretty significant. Where um, there's some concerns have been raised about cultural insensitivity. Some arguing that Nani leaving Hawaii for the mainland reflects an imperial narrative, ignoring the historical context of indigenous family separation and the fact that Hawaii as an island is a logical place to discuss to study marine biology. But I don't think they ever said she was going to go, unless that's just how the people in Hawaii refer to the main United States as the mainland. And that part I don't know.
I mean, sure. I mean, I think you were talking about two different things here. One, just Nani abandoning her to go, I guess, go to the mainland. So yeah, so I get to the other parts of the United States and not finding a college in Hawaii. Sure, I feel like to me that's a mute point. To
Yeah.
me anyway. For other people, I can see that being an issue, but I didn't see that much of an issue that she decided to go not in Hawaii to get a college degree. They even made a point in the movie that this was the best marine biologist school in the country. So
Mm.
and she got accepted to go. So why wouldn't she go? Like, it just so happened that that's not in Hawaii. So, I guess some people were getting into contention with that. The main discourse that I was seeing was that they seemed that Nani didn't love Lilo because she abandoned her and abandoned the idea of Ohana means family, and family means no one gets left behind or forgotten, and then you just leave her behind, and I've been seeing a lot of that in there. But, I mean, when you watch the movie, she didn't leave her behind,
No.
and also, to your point, we get more of a grounded reality of what family means. In the animated version, we get that through aliens.
Hmm.
They were able to extend their family through these other alien counterparts with Jumba, Pleakley, Stitch, and they were able to grow that way within this family. In this particular case, in live action version, we get more of a grounded reality that your family, when your family is small, as they said in the movie, like our family's small, it's broken, but this is what we got. And then we see that expand into your neighbors, and your neighbors are family. Like anyone can be your family as long as you hold them close and dear, near to your heart.
Yeah.
And so, like, to extend that and allowing your family to kind of help out when needed. So, like, don't feel like you're not a burden to anybody, but like, don't feel like you have to do this, take care of your sister and struggle. There's no reason to struggle when other members that you consider family are willing to help so you can grow yourself as well as, keep the bond alive. And they definitely showcase that in the post-credit scene when Nani really wanted to go see her sister. You had the alien portal they went through, they're sleeping, in the same bed, they're having a good night. If that didn't showcase how much they loved each other, we saw two different movies if you're
Yeah.
saying that Nani doesn't love Lilo. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It's not like Lilo tried to call her on FaceTime and she was at a party and just declined her call because she's partying and
Yeah,
enjoy
that's
and,
in the
and
that's in
living
the
her
sequel.
life. That is abandonment. No, she was in her room
Yes.
studying, and her sister called her. Or I'm pretty sure that's what I remember what happening. Like they were on a call, and then it ended with her grabbing the
They were on a
alien
call.
teleporter and jumping into bed with her and hugging her. Like that's literally how the scene ends. How is that viewed as abandonment? She has literal direct
Yeah.
access to her through alien technology. So yeah, she may be on another side of the world, but she can get there as if she was her next door neighbor. So what is the where is the idea of abandonment there? It's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And then the fact that like you have literally this as a plot device that you can have access to her whenever you want. So it doesn't matter where you are. To your point, it doesn't matter where you are in the world. We have this alien technology that allows you to be, within seconds away from another person. You don't know how. I don't know how it works. It doesn't matter. That's not the point of it all.
It's irrelevant. Like we're talking about a movie with the blue
it's irrelevant.
monster.
It's alien technology. Yeah, it was also showcased throughout the whole movie that how they were able to get around the island so fast.
Yeah.
So like it just made sense that now they're using it as a piece of technology for love. And we have Pleakley here still being the ambassador of making sure that Stitch is all good. I do not know why Cobra Bubbles was out for dinner. Maybe they're just another extension of their family as well. Now I guess Cobra Bubbles is now part of the family now. I'm not
Mm.
sure how you view that, but like we we see the extension and the love kind of come together in a different way than we did in the animated version. And that's why this felt natural to me. To your point, they found a solution to a problem that was presented in the film, one that felt right and natural for the film itself. So, so yeah, I had zero problem. Like I had zero problems with the decisions that were made within the movie that is causing the most controversy. The ending and Gantu. Those I for me were justified. At the end of the day, do I feel like the whole movie existing is justifiable? Not really.
No.
Like
I mean, of
it's
course not. I mean,
no, like
but that's like
and that's
all
what
the live action remakes.
that's what the
They're unnecessary.
exactly. Like I don't think it was different enough to kind of prove its own existence, but it was still enjoyable enough. And the fact that I was able to get something of a different experience out of it, as I did with the animated version, rather than walking into this movie and be extremely pissed because it was the exact same as the animated movie. So at least they made efforts to try to make it different to a modern age. And for that, I'm fine with it. Like for me, this whole movie was fine. I walked out of it and was like, that's a Stitch movie.
Yeah, it was fun.
Like, you know what I mean? It's like it was fun. Yeah. They did like a couple of beats that were the same. If I'm really nitpicking, I was more upset that didn't have the ugly duckling story because that's where the one when he realized that he was a loner and the story allowed him to realize that the ugly duckling didn't have anybody and then he was able to find a family. To me, that was a big focal point in the animated version that they negated in the live action movie. Instead, he found that through other means, not from a children's book
Mm.
that was presented in the movie. So, like, I'm more upset about that because I thought that was to me that was an important point in the animated film that was not included in the live action film. They went about it in a different way, and that's fine. But we still got to the same result at the end of the day. So, um, but yeah, do you want to talk about the box office now or after Mission Impossible?
Oh, we can talk about it now.
Okay. So at the time of this recording, it's understatement to say this movie made bank. At the course of a three as of a 4-day holiday, well, I guess as a 3-day weekend, this movie as far as the weekend's concerned, this movie made $146 million. At the end of the Memorial Day weekend, this movie made $183 million opening weekend. At the time of this recording, however, this movie made $197.8 million domestically, an additional $194.8 million internationally, with a grand total of $392.6 million worldwide, and we are just on Wednesday, folks. This movie, it's not even a week yet, and this movie had a budget of $100 million. To say that it has made its budget tenfold with an opening weekend, it's an understatement.
Yeah, needless to say, it made its money, to say the least.
Yeah, I think we can easily. This is on track of $1 billion movie, and
absolutely.
I don't know what that says about the industry because only $1 billion movies can just be major IPs. But this was a low risk, high reward for Disney because definitely coming out of Snow White, I think this movie made Snow White like entire run in a weekend. I'm just gonna double check on that right now on that. At the time of this recording, the worldwide gross for Snow White was $205 million. That's 87 domestic, 118 international, with a grand total of 205 worldwide at its entirety of its theatrical release. It's clear that nobody wanted to see that movie, and the stuff that was happening behind the scenes didn't help that. So, Stitch made that in tenfold, nearly doubling the amount of Snow White's total gross. So, when you compare it that way, you look at it as, are the live actions movie working for Disney? When you look at it as Snow White, no. But when you look at it as Stitch, 100%.
Yeah.
So what does that boil down to? Like, does that boil down to the huge marketability of Stitch? Or are live action movies working? And I feel like Disney can see it as, we just going to keep doing these live action remakes because they make us money. And I'm going to say no. The reason why this movie worked because a lot of people love Stitch. A lot of people are going to come out to see this movie because you put Stitch into the movie.
Yes, I agree with you, but I think it worked. I think the setting for Stitch, kind of what I mentioned before, that this film and this character and the characters within it work really well as a live action. I think that also helped. Whereas some of them don't. It's like, what are we like? Why did we need this? Like, why did we need this? Like what? Like the Peter Pan one? Like what's another really bad one?
That was so bad.
Yeah.
Peter Pan was bad. Pinocchio wasn't great.
Nope.
Um, I know you like the Maleficent ones. I never cared, but those were different, so that doesn't really count.
Those aren't even live action remakes. Those
Um,
are just like continuations of like spin-offs
that's
almost.
fair. Yeah. Lion King, those never worked for me.
Nope. They didn't even watch it. I
Uh,
didn't even watch
but yet
those.
they make money.
Yeah, but they make money. Well, I guess my next question is like, what's next? What's gonna be next for them? Do we know? Do we
Another
know?
live action remake.
Do we
'Cause
know what the next
Disney,
live
that's what
action
they've been
remake
doing
is?
best for the. That's a good question. Actually, I don't, but the internet will tell us.
Let's see.
Disney's next live action remake.
Moana. July
Ah,
10th,
God,
2026. See, I have no interest in seeing that. I have zero
no
interest.
interest.
No interest.
Too soon.
Yeah.
Way too soon. You're still making sequels for the animated one. What? Like the fact that The Rock is going to play a live action Maui, that interests me very little.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like it's different because Chris Sanders, the co-director and the original voice of Stitch, coming back in a live action version of it, I was like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. Stitch is a very unique sound, and if you have the person who can perfect it, like that's an easy get. You know what I mean? But having Dwayne Johnson, the voice of Maui, to come back and play a live action version of it, to me it just feeds into his ego, and I don't need that. Like, I don't need to see a live action version of him singing the song that he already sang. At
Especially
least
since
here,
we
this is a Stitch.
especially since we just got Moana Part 2, like literally
Yeah,
last year.
yeah, and I really hope this is like a project that will be, not happening, but they're filming, so they shot this movie already. So yeah, it's a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, to your point, I'm not looking forward to that live action remake, whatsoever. So I guess that's what we can look forward to from Disney's live action slate is Moana. Yeah, yeah. I don't know how well that movie's gonna do. But maybe I could be wrong. I didn't want a Moana 2 and it made a fucking $1 billion. So what do I know?
Okay.
So
That's fair.
you know what I mean? It's like next you know the live action version. So you told the same story 3 times and yet we're still making billions of dollars. So what do I know? I honestly, and I don't mean to be mean by saying this, I hope the movie flops because that just double downs on we don't need this.
Mm,
We don't need this at all. But
yeah.
it makes complete sense why Stitch works. Like I'm not mad that Stitch is a success, because it still worked at the end of the day. Like it to your point, it does lend itself well to a live action remake, and he looks fantastic. Like they
Yeah.
made a cute, fluffy, conniving Stitch. And I feel like that's the one thing they had to make right. And the marketing behind this movie was fantastic. Like him doing like him in a robot version of him, like him like kind of like taking over billboards, him taking over movie theaters and interacting with guests is like the marketing was genius. Him taking over the Super Bowl, like everybody loves Stitch and he was everywhere for months. And so everybody knew that a Stitch movie was coming out. And I think this movie is also complemented by great marketing. And even 2 weeks ago, when we talked about Thunderbolts. They said here's a poster for Thunderbolts. It's now a new Avengers. Doesn't matter. Here's Stitch, interrupting all of it. And then the Stitch movie's coming out. I was like, that's genius.
Yeah.
Genius marketing. They did a really good job with the marketing and made a reason for people to go watch this movie. So with that, Ernesto, your final thoughts.
I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. I thought it worked well. I'm not a big fan of the live action remakes, but for me, this one worked. I don't we kind of talked through the ending. I see the criticisms. I just don't. I don't. I just don't agree. I think that they were for me. They were able to keep them together while still giving Nani a chance to better her life and get a career that will help her take better care of Lilo. That's how I viewed the ending, not
Mm.
as abandonment.
Well, I think with that too, they were able to kind of make their relationship stronger because, as they said, Nani's not a mother
Mm,
to Lilo, it's her sister. So I think they were able to make that bond even stronger without the stresses of having to take care of her in the way that she was trying to in the live action version.
Yeah.
But I 100% agree with you. I actually agree with a 3.5. It was a good movie, not a great movie. It was fun, enjoyable, great for the kids. Like I can see kids really enjoying this. And for some of the changes, whether I like them or not, I mean, talked a lot about how much I did not like Jamba in this movie, but I can understand it for the story perspective that it made sense. Eliminating Gantu, the changes to the ending, Jamba being our villain, as much as I don't necessarily jive with all of those things, it made sense for the movie, and I can't be mad at it when it works, when it makes sense.
Mm.
So, like, when it doesn't make sense, that's when I have my troubles, but it made sense, and nothing about this movie didn't make sense. So, for that, 3.5. It was still enjoyable, wasn't great, but yeah, a decent outing. I would arguably say this is one of the better live action remakes Disney has come out with in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so now we're going to be moving on to our second spoiler review, and that is Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning with a question mark. We don't know if this is actually going to be the final Mission Impossible movie, but that's what they allude us to say. This is Tom Cruise doing what he does best, his own stunts. Ernesto, your thoughts on maybe the final movie out of the Mission Impossible franchise?
Overall, I thought it was a really enjoyable experience. I think makes for a great action film. Obviously, it is a little long, especially if you watch part one. I mean, part one's like almost a little over 2.5 hours, and this one was like 240 something. So we're very close to like over 5 hours of content just in these last two movies alone. And I think that the story was basic enough that it didn't need to be stretched out over so much time. Like I felt like this story could have been condensed to one 3-hour movie. But I guess for the purpose of
Mm.
each big stunt in each movie, felt necessary to split them. In the last movie, we get the infamous cliff jump where he parachutes down. And in this one, we get the biplane, which I kind of want to go through because I found some information on it, and this man is a wild man. Like, and that's really the main appeal is that these movies are grand set pieces for these stunts, and that's why they work. I think that's part of the reason why they work. It's like, what's the big stunt? Like, but it makes his movies a spectacle to be seen in the theaters, not even to necessarily enjoy it at home. These movies are meant to be seen in the theaters, and that's why they continue to make them and why they do so well. These grandiose action films. But overall,
Yeah,
I think this worked as like a final outing. I just wish it wasn't so long.
I mean, to your point, they're definitely these movies for the last few years, especially when Christopher McQuarrie came on board, has been a vehicle for this grand spectacle of a theatrical experience. To watch the next big stunt and how Tom Cruise did it, and the planning and kind of everything that kind of went to it, and just kind of being awe of like we're doing all this work and we want to make sure that we're giving people something they've never seen before on the big screen. Action wise, it's not like we're getting like these is it's very different when you say like I saw an action movie and it was John Wick, as opposed to I saw an action movie and it was Mission Impossible, and really focusing on the impossible of it all. And so I think like Tom Cruise has definitely proven that like one human being can do all these impossible stunts. Like that's what you go into seeing these movies for. That being said, however, I did not need 90 minutes of exposition.
Which is
That
basically like
really,
it was like a
really
rehashing of everything.
Yeah, I to me that's what really bogged me down in this movie is like it took us roughly this movie's 2 hours and 49 minutes, and it took us almost 90 minutes, about maybe an hour and 20 minutes to get to him being submerged in the submarine. And I was like, guys, I'm bored. Like we talked so much about like serious things. Like the conversations were not fun. It wasn't witty like we've seen it in past films. It was like very serious tone, and we were it just one exposition after another. One thing, oh, we have to do this. Where do we go? Well, before we get to that though, we need to do a whole bunch of other things, and then we got to talk about it. And then he's like, "Do we trust Ethan? No, but we're gonna let him do his stuff anyway." And then we see him go through all that and talking to the government and all this. And it's like, I'm I'm like I'm drained before we even get to the big scene. And as much as I'm really impressed with the submarine scene, it also was not high octane, edge of my seat uh action entertainment. It was very slow moving of him going traversing through the waters, and it wasn't until after he got the MacGuffin was where the stakes kind of came in, where the ship was like slowly fall like dipping further into the depths of the ocean, and like he's getting all these obstacles in his way with all of, like the bombs that were there, and that made it a little bit intense. But getting to that point, like at that point, we're already halfway through the major set piece of the movie, and now we're like an hour 40 when I felt like now I'm on the edge of my seat, seeing how he's going to get out of this situation. But leading to that was just to me was just a slog. And I just remember watching Rogue Nation and Fallout. I was like, these movies were fun, even the in betweens to get to the next set action piece were like really fun dialogue, getting into them prepping the next mission. The fact that they separated also felt like hindered the movie a little bit because they were no longer a team. It was the team that Simon Pegg was leading and Tom Cruise on the same but similar mission. I never was on board with the romance between Haley Atwell and Tom Cruise, not from even the Dead Reckoning Part 1. Um, I just to your point, this movie would have served like I would not have as many problems I had with this movie if it was just shorter.
Mm.
And we just got to the point because to your point, the the story was quite simple, but we just had to talk a lot about it because it felt like that we have to give you all of this stuff because it was the final film on the franchise, and we have to make everything tie into other films where this franchise was never about that. Like it just because of these final two movies, we feel like we got to connect it to a bigger story since the first movie. But it was never about that. You had your mission of the movie,
Mm.
and we had a fun ride getting us there. And some aspects of it moved along to the next, into the next film, but not like major plot points or like, remember this guy from the first movie? No. Like, well, he's his son. Why? I don't care. I just want to see the crazy stunt that Tom Cruise is gonna do and give me some laughs along the way. I don't care that that guy is John Voight's son, who was the villain in the first movie. Because what'd he do? Just chase Tom Cruise around. I don't care about you. I don't. Also, the our main villain of the movie who just kept like, Ethan, you have to protect your family. You and me, I do nothing, and you have to come to me because I have the thing that you need, and you're always gonna follow me, and we're always gonna be chasing me because you can't help yourself. Shut up and do something, man. Like, you just keep fucking talking. And then when you actually do something, you're like this crazy, weird Bond villain on a plane. It's like, wow! It's like, no, man. That's uh, I had problems with this movie.
I actually thought you were gonna like it better than you did. I'm a little surprised right now. I mean, I thought there were a lot of parts that were fun, but there was a lot of parts that like could have been cut out. Like the Ving Rhames death scene, like that was really, really dragged out. And also like there was like weird things that they cut out. So we're in an action film and we're in this action scene. Instead of showing us the action, you show us Haley Atwell's response to Tom Cruise doing action that we don't get to see as the audience. You use it as a joke
Oh,
for him having like really violent action. And I wonder if like that was a meant for like, so like you can bring because I also noticed that it's not like this one's not like overly sexual. Like you can bring like an older kid to see this movie. Like I brought my older kid to see it, and I felt like, and I walked out and I was like, that was fine. Like that was totally fine for him to watch. But it was like stuff like that where like it was like you giggle in the moment, but then afterwards you go, why did they do that? Like it's an action movie. Like we could have seen some sort of fight. Like we could have seen any fighting.
Yeah.
Like any fighting would have been better than what we did see. Like it was a cute, like funny moment, but it could have been used. That could have been a more effective use of that scene. That's how I felt.
Y- Yeah, to your exact point, there's not many moments where this movie steers away from showing you action. So I think the comedic angle of it, which I never found it funny, was like him doing something so brutal, actually killing people. We don't want to see that brutality. We're almost like protecting the image of Ethan Hunt, because we didn't see him do these extremely violent things like we do see, like for example, John Wick do.
Mm.
And even though John Wick, it just shoots a lot of people, but like we didn't get to see that version of Mission Impossible because again, it was never about him brutally murdering somebody. Um, but he was like, "Well, it had to be done." He's like, "Well, yeah, yeah." It was like, "Yeah, I had to do it." It's like, "Yeah, sure. Come on, we gotta go." It's like to your point, it just felt extremely out of place after they were about to be tortured
Yeah.
themselves.
It was one of the few times in the movie that it like pulled me out. It like that it wasn't I was actually having a good time until that moment literally pulled me out of the film. I was like, "Oh, what are we doing? Like what are we doing here?" Like we're in this intense fight scene and all of a sudden we're like like Three Stooges shit. Like what are we doing?
Yeah, and also to your point, like having what's his name again? It's Luther Ving Rhames. Having him die, it's like he's been around for a while. I liked his death because it gave it purpose to the cause.
Yeah.
And also this was the final movie, so you gave it some stakes to it. But to your point, it was a little bit drawn out and it kind of just came out of nowhere because he's like prepping him for the next mission and telling him about this MacGuffin, but he has to get another MacGuffin to merge with this MacGuffin to make sure that the entity, whatever it's called, doesn't spread to the world or whatever. He needs the cheat code or the pass key to the two MacGuffins need to merge to make a major big MacGuffin and or something. And
That's
so like
exactly it. That's
he made it,
exactly
and so
it.
like the villain had to yeah, the villain had to kill him so he couldn't make another one. And so then he's like, "Damn, that's a good villain. He got me trapped." But like you were sick, but don't worry about that. I wasn't actually really sick. But like you were on your deathbed and they maybe filled you with poison, but then they locked you in a cage with a bomb. So you're like, "Wait, so what happened? Were you sick or did they just catch you?" It's like, "Doesn't matter. He's dead now." It's like, "Oh, okay. All right." And then like
All
the
right.
entity was like, "Go ahead."
No, I was just agreeing with you. I was just agreeing.
Oh, yeah. And then we have the entity like he goes into this chamber of like the entity telling him all these things. And then that's like the last time we ever see the entity do anything so bad in this movie. We just see threats. And it's just so odd because then we have like this other guy's like, I want the MacGuffin to control the entity. Um, but we need to destroy it. But the entity's not going to do anything except for very slowly take control of the world's nukes. And then our villain is going to do absolutely nothing because he knew that Tom Cruise and Ethan Hunt and his team is going to do everything to try to stop him. But they're not trying to stop him. They're trying to stop the entity. And the evil guy is not doing shit because he has the thing that Ethan needs. And it's just so convoluted that we could have simplified all of this and eliminate so many things to make this more enjoyable.
Yeah, it could have been an hour and a half. Shut your brain off, like crazy action film. Let's see what his stunt is for this. But it seems like they wanted both things. They wanted to give us that, but then they also wanted to give us this long story with exposition that like makes you think about things. But this movie's not. It can't. This is a clear indication that it can't be both things.
Correct. I 100% agree with that because you have like these what's crazy is like I think I read an article saying that Mission Impossible should have ended with Fallout. And after seeing Dead Reckoning Part 1 and Final Reckoning, I was like, I 100% agree with that because they went a little bit deeper into the impossible angle. Like they keep like upping the stakes of how impossible the next mission is, and yet then they're able to do it. And this one being the most impossible they've ever done. And to their credit, I do agree with that. This definitely feel like an unwinnable thing. They had split second decisions to make it work, and to see them pull that off constantly throughout part one, Dead Reckoning Part 1 and Final Reckoning was interesting to watch, but the franchise was never really about that. And it just made it more of a darker movie when these movies were always meant to be and has shown to be more fun than it was. And honestly, thinking back, I really enjoyed the first half of Dead Reckoning Part 1 because we got to see those interactions, not action wise, but how the team was
Yeah.
dynamics of the team, them in the airport and
Yes.
seeing them kind of go through that. That was fun to watch. That was
Yes.
classic Mission Impossible.
Yes. Totally agree.
And then it kind of gets bogged down halfway through part 1 where we're adding all these other stories in place that doesn't really make any sense. And then you have your major set piece of him jumping off the ramp and, kind of free falling into the train and then having the train kind of, kind of collapse. And that's your big action moments that we kind of get us in the edge of our seat. And then this movie kind of starts us off with none of that, none of the fun. It's all serious, no fun and games. Like you kill off one of our characters, and then we have to go through government agent, not government agent, but like government officials after. Then they have to separate with Ethan, and then he goes on a solo mission to I don't even know, to the submarine. And then we see Hannah Waddingham, who had a great double feature for herself because she was the voice of Grand Councilwoman in Lilo and Stitch. And then she had a role here in Mission Impossible. So you got a double dose of her this weekend. And which good for her, good for her agent.
Mhm.
Right. She's making killer roles. Um, and I thought her role was fine in the movie, but didn't offer much of anything because all Ethan did was give her a piece of paper from the president saying a date, which was the release date of the first movie, and saying this is significance to you. We're not going to tell you what it is, but you're just going to have to trust me. Like the president trusts me. And then that just the next expedition to get us to uh the guy from Severance,
Yes.
which his role was great. I liked him there a lot. Uh then to get us into we have to explain what the super suit does, the super swimsuit does, the submarine suit. We have to get a whole nother exposition of how that works and how he should have died multiple times in this movie from the freezing water temperatures.
Yeah.
But no, because he's Ethan Hunt and he can do whatever. But I feel like that the stakes of him going underwater and submerging was lessened in my opinion because yes, he's probably doing all those things and they might have built this, but clearly he's not going down in the freezing temperatures uh in real life. He's probably in a secured soundstage and they're adding all these elements into it. So like that to me lessened like the thrill of watching him just jump off a plane and see what happens next. You know what I mean? But we to their credit, we have never seen a fully submerged water scene like that to that extent, I should say, because we have seen it in other Mission Impossible movies, but to that extent in um uh in a Mission Impossible movie, like how he went under the submarine. But also in a way it felt effortless. I never felt like he was struggling in a way because at the end of the day, he was able to take off the super swimsuit and maybe die.
And then brought
But then
back to
don't
life.
worry, there's this and then brought back to life, but we don't see how. We don't see him get rescued. We kind of see it in a flash forward that he got rescued, but then we never see the actual act. And then he just wakes up in this chamber with Haley Atwell sleeping right next to him.
Yep.
Like, hey, just giving you a big old bear hug, and you're fine now. It's like, no, he would have died. Like, I just felt like like the what's the called? the anticipation of him maybe dying in that scene, and also the finality of it was quickly negated when it just cuts to black and then we just see him like in this chamber. Like, I'm all good now. I'm warm. Thanks.
And then we get
What were your thoughts on like?
I like this. I mean, I
Like,
like
what-
that scene, but I also, to me, the way that they revived him and brought him back, kind of you were describing, reminds me. It pulled me out in the same way earlier in the movie when they just kind of like you're looking at Haley Atwell during this action sequence. It's like, why did they do that? Like, you give us this whole setup for this stunt, but you don't see what happens. Very similar, and actually very similar to the ending of the big stunt at the end. Like, here's a big thing that had like he's falling and he's this parachute ends, and also he made it. You don't need to worry about it. Mission accomplished. He was able to do it. You don't get to see it, but you're gonna spend all this time showing us this crazy ass stunt, which I've done. I did a little research on the stunt, on the biplane stunt, and it is crazy. Like, he is.
Yeah, let's hear about it.
So the standout stunt is a breathtaking sequence where Ethan Hunt performs a wind walking stunt on a vintage biplane at 8,000 feet, soaring at 140 miles per hour.
Wow.
This stunt, described as the most dangerous that he's done in Cruise's career, concludes with a high-stakes chase and fight against the villain Gabriel midair. So it's with 1930s biplane enduring extreme wind pressure and minimal oxygen. The sequence involves him moving across the wing, fighting Gabriel, and eventually climbing back into the cockpit to land the plane safely after it sustains damage. The biplane's aerobatics, including carving and kerning through the sky, amplify the physical challenge. Cruise trained for 18 months, including wind walking practice, which involved learning to balance on a moving aircraft under extreme conditions. It's crazy. His prior experience with aerial stunts, Top Gun and Fallout, and flying jets and helicopters were critical. He underwent flight simulations and wind tunnel testing to adapt to the wind forces and low oxygen levels at high altitudes. The stunt required immense strength to withstand wind pressure and propeller blasts. Stunt coordinator Wade Eastwood noted that Cruise was so exhausted after takes, the crew often had to carry him off of the wing. Some safety measures. They had safety cables that were digitally removed in post-production. Obviously, nobody wants him to die walking off the plane. I would hope that they would use cables. They were used to prevent falls. Communication during the stunt relied on hand signals, as verbal communication was impossible due to the lack of radio on the wing. Cruise was alone at the controls, positioning the plane relative to the sun for optimal lighting and operating camera focus off screen, effectively acting as performer and crew. How crazy is that? So not only that, the fuel constraints. The biplane had only 3 minutes of fuel due to the lightweight requirements for aerobatics, adding urgency to the stunt. Cruise spent up to 20 minutes on the wing, pushing his physical limits to the sequence. So Christopher McQuarrie himself went on a helicopter's ledge to communicate with Cruise via hand signals, experiencing the intense conditions firsthand to understand the stunt's feasibility. Cruise revealed that he passed out during one take due to oxygen deprivation at 120 to 130 miles per hour. He trained to manage breathing under these conditions, describing the wind force as brutal and akin to stepping onto another planet. Eastwood called it the hardest workout you could ever do, with particles from propeller adding to the danger. He was inspired by early black and white wind walking footage as he saw as a child, calling the stunt a dream come true. McQuarrie noted it stemmed from a TikTok video that Cruise saw, sparking the idea to push boundaries further. Christopher McQuarrie described the stunt as the craziest in the film, noting that no one on Earth could do that due to the physical and technical complexity. The stunt was so. I thought this is the funniest part. The stunt was so intense that McQuarrie, the director, felt nauseous from stress and the crew was in awe of Cruz's ability to perform it. So, like, he he's even the director is stressed out that he felt nauseous just watching Tom Cruise do this stunt. I think but I do think that it's like the most impressive thing that they've done out of the entire franchise. It, regardless of how you feel about the film, this stunt
Yeah.
is fucking incredible. Like, I don't like, regardless, the movies is okay, but this stunt that they pulled off was amazing.
And it's sad that the movie doesn't reflect everything you just said. because it's truly insane. Like, honestly, once they came back together and they were on their way to the inside of, I don't know where they were, a cave, uh wherever the servers were, like,
Oh yeah,
wherever that was,
somewhere,
which was probably
yeah,
the last.
like a last connection to the internet that the entity needed. I don't remember the place was called.
Whatever. It was a place that they needed to go to, and after they got the first MacGuffin, because they needed the second MacGuffin to make a super MacGuffin. Like, whenever they got to that point of the movie, when I feel like that was the moment that I was finally enjoying the film, because that's where we got like the stakes, the wit, like,
Mhm.
Simon Pegg, like, literally passing out, like,
Yeah,
thinking he's gonna die, kind of going through between Haley Atwell and Palm to like talk them through what they need to do. Then Tom Cruise is like, you have to go get him. And like him rushing out and then doing the insane plane stunt, cutting back to them. Basically, again, this is the finality of it, thinking that Benji's gonna die. Simon Pegg's gonna die as he's walking through all this. Then you have another stakes moment over here where they're trying to defuse a bomb. And it's like, okay, wow, it took us fucking 2 hours to get here, but here's the grand finale that I wish we would have started with 2 hours ago. And then, because also is cutting in between, um uh who was the president? Angela Bassett,
yeah.
making the decision to blow off the nukes in the first place and send them off as they're getting taken over. So like all of those kind of coming together created a really great finale for it. It to me, it just got bogged down by 2 hours prior to that. But like, as far as the stunts that we saw with that plane, I think it was 100% better than the stunts that was like shown on screen from Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Mm.
Like him, like between him jumping off the ledge and the train was good and exciting, but him literally traversing through the plane in the sky was insane to watch.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like it was a little bit bogged down by the cheesiness of our main villain, who did absolutely nothing
Also,
and just yelled at him.
what a really bitch way for him to die. Like,
Yes.
all this build up, and he just goes, "Only one of us have a parachute," and he just hits, ha ha ha, and he hits the back of the plane, splits his head open, and he falls off and dies. It's like all that build up
For nothing.
for that death. Like, they should have given him a much better death.
Well, like you made him to be the grandiose villain of all of the movies.
Yes.
And then he ended up doing nothing between two movies. Like, Henry Cavill did more with his, reloading of his arm guns
Yeah.
than this guy ever did in two movies. Like, I wish Henry Cavill was our villain for the last couple of films. Like, he was fantastic.
Yeah. I agree.
This guy did absolutely nothing. And so, like, him dying, not dying, like, he served nothing. He just, like, I'm a guy from your past, and I'm gonna keep telling you that. And I know you, Ethan. I know what you're gonna do. I don't care. Do something.
The entity has showed me, Ethan.
It's like there's so much good things in this movie, but it's bogged down and it's getting in its own way.
Yeah. Totally.
And that's what frustrates me about the final version of, like, the final movie. It's like you're giving us gold, but then you're also shitting on it. You're your own. You're just getting in your own way. And like I have less care about some of these characters and how you're presenting them and I care more about like the action set pieces, which is what I came for this movie for. I ended up watching this movie in IMAX because Lilo and Stitch basically took over every 40x theater, which was my original plan. But I'm happy I did see this movie in IMAX because I do feel like you need to see this movie on the biggest screen possible. Because it was these movies are meant to see on the big screen. And what was really cool is when they were switching to the aspect ratio of like now we're switching to the IMAX cameras. When he was submerging under the like when he was opening the scene where he was opening up the door to go underwater and like he like turned the wheel one way, we saw the aspect ratio like go with every turn. So it was like shifting from like your normal viewing to like a little bit wider, then a little bit wider, and then so it was really cool to see that as he was turning the wheel.
That's
And
cool.
then I think like yeah. And then he was like, as I think he was running toward a plane, you just saw just slowly move over, like as he was doing that. So that it was really cool to see the aspect ratio change when we're getting like to me that was the calls like, oh, here's the action moments. Here we go. This is the parts we got to film with IMAX cameras. Um, but yeah, to your point, the last 45 minutes of this movie brought all the stakes, brought all the actions, brought everything I wanted for what I wish this whole movie would be. But then after all that was over, you mentioned earlier that he was just falling from his death. And like we don't know what was going on. The stakes are higher than ever. Like, did they save the day or not? And we just see Ethan falling, and then it just we see Haley Atwell make the quick pull. The day is saved, but what happened to Ethan? It just cuts to him standing up and he's fine. And it's like, honestly, I would have preferred, in my opinion, to really make it final if he died. This was his
Yeah.
last stitch sacrifice to having the world come to an end. So his friends were able to survive, but he made the ultimate sacrifice to save the day. And I think that to me would have served a better ending rather than the ending that we did get, which we get we don't see how he survived because you just showcase that he had no parachute, and then you just come back and say, "Oh, what we didn't tell you, he had a second parachute." And it's
Mm.
like, okay.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it would have been way more impactful, especially since he spent that time trying to set up Simon Pegg. He spent a lot of the movie trying to set him up as like the new leader of whatever the team is going to be. So if like almost like you already knew you were saying your goodbyes, but then you didn't. And
Absolutely.
we get the picturesque Hollywood ending where everybody meets in this random town square, and then we all just kind of look at each other smiling like, hey, you know what's up. We're here. We're the IMF. And then
Yeah.
everybody just kind of goes their own way, hinting that it's not the end.
And right, exactly. Like they give him the entity. Is like, I know you want to destroy it, but now we've captured it, and now you get to safeguard it. Like you want some people want to control it, you wanted to destroy it, but now we've captured it, and now you're the guardian of the entity. And so it's like, is that just your mission? Your final mission is to just safeguard this? Like this to me never did not feel final. This feels like that we just spent 2 movies on this one story and come back in 3 years and he's gonna come back again. Like, that's what that moment felt to me. So even like as a finality standpoint, I felt like I got gypped on that too. I would have much rather him die.
Yeah, I totally
And
agree.
make the ultimate sacrifice for the most impossible mission because they kept telling us ways of how this was impossible that it got done. And then when we finally do the impossible, he made the ultimate sacrifice to get it done, which was him dying. And then to your point, have Benji lead the next team because that's what, he was trained to do. Um, so yeah, so for me, even that got undercut a little bit as well. Um, but I think I just wanted more. I actually I take that back. I wanted less for more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you just wanted it to be condensed and get a
Um,
little bit more of the better stuff and less of the cheesy exposition. That's kind of what I gather.
yeah, pretty much. But with that, let's also talk about the box office. Pretty much, you nailed it on the head. I do want to talk about the box office as well. It's it's hard to say this. So I feel like I'm saying two different things when I say this. So like I'm saying it's a good thing and a bad thing. So let me explain. So this movie opened to the biggest opening this movie has ever had at $64 million over the course of the 3-day weekend. Yeah. Oh, sorry. It opened to 60. What was it? Hold on. Okay, here we go. So over the course of a over the weekend, it opened to $64 million, and then around the 3-day weekend, it had $77 million. So with that, it was the biggest opening this franchise has ever had. But here's where it starts to get rocky. So at the time of this recording, the domestic gross is $86.2 million. Internationally is $127 million, with a grand total of $213.2 million worldwide. And it's Wednesday. So like overall, this movie was a huge hit internationally. It's doing extremely well. But here's the kicker: this movie had a budget of anywhere between 300 to $400 million. So with its extremely large budget, it
Whoa.
needs to more or less it needs to more or less make $1 billion to profit. And no movie in franchise history has ever made $1 billion. And the highest to do it was Mission Impossible Fallout, which had a gross of getting that information now. Had a worldwide gross of $824.1 million. So that is the highest that movie has made in franchise history. So the Final Reckoning would need to match that and then some to be profitable. So even though it's doing extremely well, I don't know how long it could last in the summer season when more movies are coming out.
Yeah, there's too many bangers
Like,
coming out this season.
yeah, like I think it did like I don't think it did any favors for itself that it opened up against Lilo and Stitch. However, I think somehow very similar to Barbenheimer and what Glicked or the Wickinator. There you go, the Wickinator. Like I think they both complemented themselves to drive more people to the theaters. It made it more of an event to go to the theater, and we saw that over the weekend. We 100% saw that. Like a lot of people were like, my theater was packed for Mission Impossible. Like I picked like the only decent seat of a loner right in the middle because everywhere else was just packed. And I saw this in IMAX. And then you were explaining how your theater was packed for Lilo and Stitch as well. And my theater was more or less packed. I saw it later in the evening for Lilo and Stitch, and that was also fairly busy. So the lines for concessions, I waited in line, Ernesto, for 20 minutes and ended up leaving it because I was going to miss the movie.
Mm.
Like I wanted popcorn for a 3-hour movie. I did not get that. I was starving because
Thankfully,
I wasn't going to miss it.
so
Sorry?
thankfully for Mission Impossible, we were on the way, and AMC has their where you can do mobile ordering ahead of time. So we were in the car, and I was like, "You better tell me what you want," because I had a feeling that it was going to be busy, but not to the extent that it was. Like I had a pickup time,
Mhm.
and my pickup time was
Yeah.
ended up being 5 minutes later because they were starting to get behind. Like we were coming in, and I could see the ticket, I could see the orders, like instantly popping up on the screen. Like they were bagging up mine, and then there
Yeah.
were 5 orders in a span of 45 seconds that just appeared, and they were just ding
Wow.
ding ding ding, and you just see the workers, poor guy, they're like, it's gonna be so busy. They were all, like, I'm curious how the movie theater workers like survived this weekend, because I'm sure that it was crazy as hell. But for Mission Impossible, once again, Thursday night, my theater was packed. Like every seat in that theater, including
Yeah.
the broke neck seats, were completely packed with people.
Yeah, Regal also has mobile order that you could do, but I never needed to use it. And I guess now there's a good reason to use it.
Hey,
When you have these major weekends like this.
these are good problems.
Um,
These are good
but yeah,
problems to have, though.
it says It's very true. These are very good problems to have. They said some reasons that could contribute to the staggering $400 million budget. They said that the figures that skyrocketed as Cruz and McCurry worked through a pandemic and two strikes while gripping inflation. So that means, and I'm trying to figure out if they so because technically Dead Reckoning Part One was definitely a film that was filmed during the pandemic. So I'm curious if that budget, because it was a part one and two, are kind of molding together. So is this the budget for the contributing two films?
No, I don't
Or
think
if
so.
this was just say it again?
I don't think I wouldn't think so because we could look up like what the budget is for that one separately, right?
For Dead Reckoning? Yeah,
I'm
we
looking right
could,
now.
yeah. Dead Reckoning
Uh,
Part One.
I found a number of 291.
I also found the same number. Yeah. 291 of a budget with a worldwide gross of $571 million. So in order for it to be in the profit margin, it would have to make at least 600, and we see that there. At least 600 to be double, let alone 750 to be, two and a half.
Mm-hmm.
So like I would be honestly surprised if it was 291 for part one and another 400 for part two.
That's what I
That's
think.
crazy to me if that is actually true. Like that budget is you're basically spending upwards of $700 million between two movies. And your movie, none of these movies have ever made that much in a singular except for one. So, I mean, Tom Cruise can be very convincing, I guess, to Paramount to give them all this money to do these crazy stunts, and people will show up to the theaters. I wonder if they were expecting, again, they were giving Tom Cruise all of this money because of the $1 billion that Top Gun Maverick got. So they're
Mm.
like, oh, okay, we give him more money to do all these crazy stunts. People are going to go out and see it. And, people showed up for Top Gun. Doesn't seem like a trove of people are showing up for Mission Impossible. But I mean, not for nothing, $213 million worldwide opening weekend is really good.
Yeah.
That's a really good opening. It's just to see if it has the sustainability to hold on to that in the midst of another huge franchise that you're competing against and other movies that are coming in the future. Like, I'm very curious to see how it pans out but then again, even though this movie is hitting solid reviews, I don't think it's even being reviewed poorly either. I think it's somewhere in the high 80s on Rotten Tomatoes. I'll give it a look right now, but I'm like everything is going well for this movie. I just don't think it's going to be a profit, which in some cases, sure, maybe that's not important, but for the sake of this conversation, like I feel like it should be a little bit as part of the conversation. I'm seeing here Rotten Tomatoes, it has an 80% critic score and an 89% audience score. So, like, they're definitely well reviewed. Tell you that. But yeah, what do you think? I mean, we'll have a deeper conversations once we obviously in the fall we'll have our summer blockbuster, our summer box office recap. But do you think it has the staying power uh, to kind of be a film people are going to continue to go watch throughout the summer?
I don't know. I don't think so. There's honestly too many other good things coming out for you to, unless you are seeing it now and that's a movie you really want to see. Like you have to, it's a commitment because it's almost 3 hours. So unless you really want to
Yeah,
see it,
you're right. I think the long run time also.
and it's a part two to a movie. So now there's a whole subsection
Yeah.
of, even though you don't really need to, there's going to be a whole subsection of people that are going to feel that it's necessary to watch part one before they watch this one, so they can fully enjoy it.
Yeah, to your point, I really did want to like earlier on. I really wanted to watch all the movies leading up to it, and then time got in the way, and then I was like, I at least want to watch part one, and then I didn't even get that. So I'll give the film credit for not needing 7 or 6 films worth of movies to get you to watch this one. This one did a really good job of kind of filling in the blanks if you just came in to watch this one.
Hmm.
Um, but it also came to diminishing returns when I personally feel like it didn't live up to the finality of it. Um, but yeah, I do think it has a little bit of room to grow because there's not a lot of huge releases in June to this caliber, to this action packed caliber. Obviously, in 2 weeks we have uh John Wick Ballerina. So like that can be comparing as far as action movies. And then in July you have the triple threat of Jurassic World, Superman, and Fantastic Four. So definitely by July, this movie is not even going to be in the conversation. But I think there's still some room for June to have people come in. But again, time will tell on how this movie actually plays out throughout the summer. But with that, Ernesto, your final thoughts.
I thought it was really good. The biplane scene is obviously the pinnacle of the film. There were some missed opportunities that they had. It's a lot of extra exposition, but I think overall it was a fun film. Like I had a good time. Like I walked out and I was like, well, I had a good time. Like it was a good, shit was a good to shut your brain off. Just not hope. Just didn't need to be 3 hours of shutting your brain off. But as far as my score,
Yeah.
I'm kind of floating between a 2.5 and a 3. I'm gonna go 3. Just
Wow.
for the. I'm gonna go 3 just for this, but it's the stunt.
I-
The stunt is what for me is what's putting it over the edge. But if you're at a 2.5, I'll meet you there.
No, I was actually at a 3. Like I walked out of that movie saying that movie's a 3. I was surprised you said 2.5, 3. I mean, I felt like you enjoyed this movie a lot more than I did, and at the end of it, you're like, yeah, 2.5, 3. Um, I said it was to me it was a solid 3 because of the stunts. I think the last 45 minutes for me saved the movie, and I was like, okay, now I'm having fun with this. Than what I enjoy from the franchise because right, wrong, or otherwise, to your point, the stunts are what's worth these watching these movies, and it's incredible to see on the big screen. So I did have fun watching that, but to your everything that we've been saying, it just gets bogged down by all this extra story, extra exposition. It's long runtime that I don't feel like it's justifiable. Wacky villains that don't feel necessary. And like we definitely could have condensed this, but we're here for the stunts, and they delivered on that. So for me, it gets the 3. But I am surprised that you actually started it low because I figured you were going to start higher.
Could have
But
been
anyway, there you
better.
go. That's our spoiler review on. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, it could have been better. Like there was a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah, I think that's a good word. Missed opportunities. But there you go. That's our spoiler review on Lilo and Stitch. That's our spoiler review on Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning. That is the kickoff to the summer blockbuster season, and that is all the show we have for you guys this week. Um, I'm really interested to see some of the other movies that are coming out this summer for sure. If you want more from us and keep up to date on all the movies we're watching this summer, you can follow us on our social media channels on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Box Office Bingers, our X and Letterboxd page at Box Office Binger, and our Threads and Instagram page at Box Office_Bingers. The fun doesn't stop here; it continues on all of our social media channels. So be sure to follow each and every one of those to keep up what we're doing. We give you the box office numbers every Sunday, and we tell you what's new to streaming every Friday. You can find all of our movie reviews on Letterboxd, and like we mentioned earlier, all of our entertainment news on Facebook, Threads, and Instagram. Some fun videos on our YouTube, TikTok, and our Instagram. And if you want to see our lovely faces, well, you can always find that on our YouTube channel and kind of watch us as we're just talking about movies. As far as next week is concerned, it's going to be a summer movie. I'll tell you that. That's a guarantee right there. I'm not sure if we solidified it, but I know we want to talk about Karate Kid. That's one we want to definitely know for sure.
Yeah, that one's coming up soon. Definitely coming up soon. But I don't think we have not finalized.
We have that. We have we have not finalized it. We know like at least what's coming up in early June. We have the Karate Kid wrapping up May. We have Ballerina, The World of John Wick. That's a slight interest to us. And a huge interest to us is Mike Flanagan's new film, The Life of Chuck,
Oh yeah,
starring Tom
absolutely.
Hiddleston. So so you can definitely look forward to hearing most of our thoughts on those upcoming movies as we kind of dive into the summer season. Um, but but yeah, we like to thank each and every one of you for listening to us just talk about movies. We really do appreciate it. Come back next week for more movie fun. You're not going to regret it. And for that, I've been your host, Matt Diaz.
I've been Ernesto Santos. See ya.